One of the reasons I've said that I would not be talking to Vladimir Putin right now, although I have met him as well, not in a green room for a show, but in a private meeting. One of the reasons...
Good afternoon, America and the world. I'm Holy Joe Rock and Roll. This is In the News and my analysis of the fourth GOP debate, which was held yesterday, November the 10th, at approximately 3 a.m. my time, because I'm 6 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. This was sponsored by the Fox Business Channel, and the moderators, Gerald Baker, Maria Bartiromo, and Neil Cavuto, were very good, very fair, and they focused really on real serious questions for the most part. So there was not a lot of food fight going on. So if you have not seen any of the debates, really, this debate I would encourage you to see because it's the most substantive and there's less infighting, although that friendliness lasted until about 54 minutes into it, and then there was a breakdown. Also, I just want to say quickly, Maria Bartiromo, looking nice, looking really nice, okay? For an older, retired Greek woman, not really into them, but looking really nice, Maria, okay? So, really good. Now, on the stage, we dropped actually two people from the previous debate. I thought it was only one. I knew it was Chris Christie, but also Mike Huckabee was also dropped. So, the good thing about that is there's less people on stage and more people can talk. There's more time for people to talk, get deeper into these topics. So, from the top of the list, in terms of the highest rated, you have Donald Trump. Then you have, of course, Ben Carson, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Jeb Bush, Carly Fiorina, John Kasich, and Rand Paul. Those are your 8 participants, candidates in this debate. I will start with at the bottom of the list and work my way up. Give you my thoughts, my analysis of what they said, what they talked about, and my reaction. And I hopefully can do this video in 20 minutes. We're up to almost 2 minutes now. But okay, Rand Paul. Other the Democrats were worse off, was one of his themes. And if you want to live better, you need to live in a city. You want to live in a city with a Republican mayor or a state with a Republican governor, because those cities and states have done better on average. The Federal Reserve, is driving the dollar down. It's sort of a theme that, it's not new to Rand Paul. His father was talking about this. Edit the Fed, audit the Fed. He mentioned, I think it wasn't clear, but he said that we have to figure out what caused the boom and the bust, the housing boom and the bust. Well, we know what caused that. Interest rates were low for too long, and banks were forced to give out these no-doc loans, interest-only loans, kind of loans. There were people who could not afford a house or buying houses. That's what caused the boom. The prices were going up because there was a huge demand for houses that people couldn't afford. Now, once interest rates started going up, people couldn't afford these bogus teaser rates, and that's what caused the crash, okay? So we know what happened. Yes, it was Fed-induced, pretty much. But also government, both Republican and Democrats involved, starting with Bill Clinton, caused this. Now, Rand Paul is calling for a 14.5% flat tax. Everybody should pay something, and he believes he could balance the budget in 5 years. Now, seriously, I believe we can balance the budget in 2 budget cycles. It just takes some balls and a little bit of elbow grease. Okay, we can do it. He also has what he calls the penny plan. It's a 1% cut across the board on all budgets, and he also believes there should be no payroll tax. He would abolish the IRS. What came up later on, we'll talk about this. Rubio believes that we should increase the child tax credit, earned income tax credit and child tax credit, and it would be about $1 trillion over a 10-year period. And Rand Paul wisely brought up, is it a conservative value that we should be giving away $1 trillion? Basically taking this money from people who pay taxes to people who don't pay any taxes. In fact, they get money back from the government. So it's really a total wealth transfer. No-fly zone came up from some of these more warmongering candidates. that there should be established a no-fly zone in Syria. But again, Rand Paul came out saying that, look, do you want to be at war with Russia? Russia's already, at the request of both Syria and Iraq, is flying. And you're going to put slap a no-fly zone over there? What are you going to do? Shoot down Russian planes? Start a war with Russia? For what? Some of these candidates really make no sense. Carly mainly is the one talking this junk, but she's not the only one. They have no clue. Rand Paul really shined in this debate. Seemed like he had a little bit more time. Again, we got rid of two candidates from the stage, so we had more time. He came across a lot more polished. He came a lot more serious. He didn't attack anybody, really, except that Marco Rubio thing. One of the last questions he had was about global warming, and he said, look, we should be doing all of the above. He did not mention nuclear. I don't know if that was on purpose or accidentally, but he's a senator from Kentucky. Kentucky, obviously a big coal mining state, and the federal government and EPA has really been cracking down on coal, and that's a big problem. We need to be diversified. We need to be able to access all of the above and really become energy independent. That would really defund terrorism in a big way. So his close was pretty good. So really, for those of you who might think that I'm not a fan of Rand Paul, well, I'm not a huge fan of him, but this debate made me more of a fan. So he may actually get a bump up in the poll. I don't know. He might. In my personal polling, I would bump him up a little bit, but it wouldn't really change anything. He still probably has to drop. If he doesn't bump up in the polls after this debate, he needs to drop out because this was a really good performance. John Kasich, he really seemed to have a lot of time in this debate. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but he really kind of bullied his way in. So Kasich's plan is that he would cut taxes and that he would balance the budget by the end of his second term. Now, come on. Kasich, I know you're trying to under-promise and over-deliver, but it would not take you 8 years to balance the budget. Come on, man. You've done this before. You said you've done it before in Washington. You've done it in Ohio. You'll do it twice. So it's not going to take you 8 years. It should not take you 8 years. It take you maximum 2 budget cycles. So give me a break, Kasich. That's the first thing. Come on, man. You should have said by the end of my first term. So going into that, you would run on re-election on that. That would be the thing. He was the budget committee chairman when he balanced the budget in the 90s when Bill Clinton was president, along with Newt Gingrich. So tell me you're going to do at the end of your second term is nonsense. I didn't like that. That's not good. Also, well, let's see here. Cyber attacks. Was asked about cyber attacks. What would he do? He would really crack down on anybody who cyber attacks the U.S., really kind of go after them aggressively, destroy them, blah, blah, blah. And that he went through a whole list of things that he would do. For instance, force Saudi Arabia to cut off funding to radical Muslims. Ha, ha, ha. I'm going to see you do that. First of all, you're going to stop them from building Wahhabi mosques all over the world, because that's where the radicalism is coming from, and it's like a consulate for radical Islam. Okay? It would have been great if you would have called for banning of Islam in all Western nations. That would be good. Angola did that, by the way. You know that. I'll put a link to that. It's really interesting. Angola has banned Islam in the country and is just demolishing all mosques. Too much greed on Wall Street. Really, parenthetically, the way this came out, he quoted a Christian theologian talking about people on Wall Street. Capitalism is great, but there has to be a moral code, right? And if there's too much greed on Wall Street, is that code for there's too many Jews on Wall Street? I'm just saying. Huh? So he also came across weak talking about that we're not going to deport these illegal aliens. Yes, we are, John. Yes, we are. Get used to it. That's what the government can do. That's what the government's good at doing. Picking up people, incarcerating them, and shipping them the hell out. If there's one thing the government is good at, that's what it's good at doing. Yeah, knocking down doors, picking up people, and taking them out. God, man, that. His clothes was weak. I don't care about your 16-year-old daughters. Now, no offense. I don't know if he has twin 16-year-old daughters, but he brought them up a couple times, and it's like, dude, look, John Kasich is like the ugly girl at a party who's giving you a lot of attention because she knows she has to be aggressive. He was very aggressive in this debate. Now, Kasich, listen to me. If your poll numbers do not double, I know you're at what, 1%, 2%. If they do not double after this debate, you need to drop out. You and Rand Paul, same kind of situation. Rand Paul wasn't aggressive, he was just good in this debate. So I expect his poll numbers to go up. But Kasich, you were aggressive, you got a lot of airtime. I don't agree with your message totally. I think you can do a lot of good stuff, but if your poll numbers don't double, you need to drop out. It's over for you, okay? You're the aggressive girl at the party trying to get my attention. And, I might hit it and split it, but there is no relationship, okay? No long-term relationship right there, okay? Now let's move up to Carly Fiorina. Last debate she had the good, the bad, the ugly, the well-connected. Okay, this debate, it was take our government back. That was the theme. We need to take our government back. And that's why we need to have zero-based budgeting where we know where all of our money is going. We know how to cut and move it and adjust it. That's called the budget process. Some of her talk is really, she's trying to sound intelligent and sophisticated, and she comes across neither in some respects, okay? Now, she was right on the beeline. We talked about that. The last debate, she was totally cool. She smiled. She had a good rhythm. She had a good communication. She did not come across as a bumblebee or a hornet or a wasp. She did not. In this debate, she was right on the border. She was not as bad as the second GOP debate when she came out full B. Okay, she was full B. In this debate, she was just borderline. So, Carly, take it down a notch. Come on, focus. You want to be liked by the people who are going to vote for you. Okay, you have to be reasonably good looking, likable, and have a good message. Your message is okay, you're reasonably good looking, but I don't know if people like you, really. She would repeal Obamacare, replace it with free market medicine, free market, make these things compete. She had some good points there. Look, so I'm not discounting some of her points. This was saying that all of these medical insurance companies would have to publish how much money they make, what's their outcome, that kind of stuff. So you can evaluate them appropriately, and that's a fair point. Do insurance companies have to do that? Seriously, like for your car insurance, they got to tell you how much money they make? Does Geico do that so you can compare them to USAA? I don't think so. Or Allstate, they don't do that. So whatever. So it's a nice idea, but whatever. Carly's funny point in the debate was she said that she had a private meeting with Putin. That's how she knew him. But the way it came across was that she had a private meeting with Putin. And I don't know if she did that for comic relief or she was just playing the straight woman, the straight guy in the comedy show. But if you watch it and if you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. There was a silent pause and then there was laughter throughout the audience. So that happened. She's opposed to Dodd-Frank and it's hurting the smaller banks. Okay. Her close was okay. Nothing spectacular. It was a canned speech, like as usual. Let's talk about Jeb Bush. He thinks we can get to 4% growth. He has a tax plan. It's 20% corporate tax plan. He would repeal all the Obama rules, executive orders, that kind of stuff. He's in favor of some kind of an earned legal status for illegal aliens. That they would pay a tax, follow some kind of rules, learn English, blah, blah, blah. And then at some point they would be eligible for legal status. Well, right there, Jeb, you're giving them legal status. If they can stay, you're giving them legal status. So that is a bit of a problem. Okay, they're here illegally. They need to go. Okay? Now, unless you're married to a U.S. citizen, that would be the only thing that I would agree with. If you're married to a U.S. citizen, because that's usually how a foreigner becomes a U.S. citizen. They marry a U.S. citizen, okay? If you're married to a U.S. citizen and it's a real deal, that would really be the only thing. If you have anchor babies that are not covered by the 14th Amendment, people, that's going to be challenged. They're not covered by the 14th Amendment. Those people are going to be deported. And your baby is probably going to lose U.S. citizenship because it's not legal. You're here illegally. 14th Amendment doesn't cover you. It was for slaves. To grant slaves, make sure that Africans, slaves, American blacks would be given their constitutional rights as U.S. citizens. That's what it was for. And that may be challenged, but I think Trump's going to win on that. So you came across weak on that there, Jeb. It doesn't come across as a strong position. He wants to simplify the tax code, But that's not enough. And we got other people talking about ripping up the tax code, 10%, 3-page tax plan, tax. That's it. So he also made one mistake when he was saying that ISIS is killing Christians in the Middle East, and I know he wanted to say probably moderate Muslims, but he said moderate Islamists.
If you're a Christian, increasingly in Lebanon or Iraq or Syria, you're going to be beheaded. And if you're a moderate Islamist, you're not going to be able to survive either.
That was hilarious. One of his strong points was when he totally lit up Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton believes that the Obama economy gets an A, and he just lit into her because obviously the economy does not rate an A, and all these other things he lit up. So that was very strong, and he came out a lot stronger in this debate. At one point, Trump was trying to shut up Kasich because he kept, like I said, he kept jumping in there, and he said, "Let Jeb talk," and then Jeb's like, "Thank you, Donald, for letting me speak at this debate," or whatever. It's funny, a good moment for Trump. His clothes was okay. Jeb's clothes was okay. Nothing fancy. Ted Cruz. He look. I'm just going to go to his big mess up. He said he would abolish 5 departments: the IRS, the Commerce Department, the Energy Department, the Commerce Department, and HUD. And as you notice, I said the Commerce Department twice because that's what he said. So he really only named 4 government agencies that he would close. So I'm guessing the 5th one would have been the Department of Education, but he did not say that. But on the other side, really good thing, he hit Hillary Clinton hard. He hit her hard. His tax plan is a 10% income tax and a 15% business tax, and I think the first $36,000 is 100% tax free. After that point, you would pay 10% flat. So it's not bad. To save Social Security, he would when Social Security pays out, and he would slowly raise the retirement age. He made a really strong point. Republicans cannot be for amnesty. If Republicans join the Democrats for amnesty, we're done. Plan. If you're married to a U.S. citizen, you have kids here, you have a family here, then we can talk. But if you just came here, dropped off some kids, now you think the kids are U.S. citizens because of the 14th Amendment, that gets pulled, you're out. Your kids not only lose U.S. citizenship, we don't care. You got here illegally. It's not covered by the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was to give citizenship to former slaves, to African Americans that were slaves. End of story. And that's what pisses me off. That some illegal immigrant, I don't care what color they are, but because they show up today, they get some kind of special treatment because of what former slaves had to deal with. That doesn't make any sense. And I think blacks, African American blacks, or black Americans should be pissed off, and they really should be pissed off about that. Right? That some idiot from a third world country who shows up here who happens to be tan or black should have the same rights as someone who's a descendant of a slave. Right? That's messed up. So I'm really angry about that. We have to enforce the laws. Okay, have to enforce the laws. Cruz has a part of his tax plan would be that, look, if you're exporting, 15% business tax, 10%, as I said, personal tax. If any business was exporting something, there would be no business tax collected on that. And that's nothing new. You don't pay taxes on anything that's exported or resold, right? Typically. The person who resells it pays a tax on it. So, but imports, he mentioned that all imports would be subject to a 15% business tax. Now that's pretty kick-ass. That's a tariff, and that's a protective mode. It's like a VAT, if you want to consider that. All the European countries have that. Poland, it's 23% VAT. Anything coming from China worth over $20 gets slapped with a VAT 23%. Okay, so it's bad for the consumer because most electronics, if you're comparing apples to apples, and I do mean apples to apples, you're going to pay at least 23% more in Poland for the same product because of this VAT in general. Sometimes there's exceptions, but in general. But that means the government is getting paid. You want to import some shit from China? Great. Government's getting paid, and hopefully will use that money in a wise way to help its citizens retrain, be more competitive, whatever. Because China has its tariffs on anything that comes out of whatever, any other country, pretty much. So sorry for that, my digression on that. He mentioned that the most important thing is to defend the nation and sugar subsidies. The sugar companies do 40% of the lobbying. That would be. I mean, sugar is sugar. I mean, just sugar beets. He would definitely go after the Wall Street crooks, and he's totally against bailouts. You have a book value of a bank. So for whatever reason, if these banks are too big to fail, there's a book value. That means all of their real estate holdings, whatever their portfolio it has some kind of value. That's the book value. You would liquidate the bank. The depositors would be protected by FDIC for their cash. Whatever securities they have should be protected if the companies represented by those certificates didn't go out of business, right? That should be okay. But anybody who had stock in the bank, meaning they owned the bank, they would probably lose out. And all the bondholders, people who had lent money to the bank in some kind of whatever, private equity or some kind of equity offering or whatever, they would lose money. So there's no need. The bank would go out of business and other banks would pick up the slack. So I'm kind of leaning towards the Ted Cruz thing. He didn't say all that. I said that because I'm smart. So let's go to Marco Rubio. He obviously has moved up in the polls, and that's why he was in the third position on the stage. He made a good point. Straight up, we need more welders than philosophers. Welders make more money than philosophers, and that's totally true. Rubio was in favor of a tax. We talked about a child tax credit, saying that the family is the most important. Yeah, it is. But look, do we want to be subsidizing poor people? If people don't have enough money to have kids, we should not be sending them money to have kids. Okay? Because people who, generally speaking, not always, generally speaking, people who can't afford to have kids have low IQs, they have low education, they have low skills. That gene pool should be restricted and not encouraged. So Rubio, you really screwed up on this one, man. Really screwed up. And that's when Rand Paul came out and said, look, is it really a conservative principle that we want to be doing this wealth transfer of $1 trillion over 10 years? It's like $140 billion a year. Look, I'm all, you feel bad for poor people, but poor people oftentimes make poor decisions. A fool and his money is soon separated. Something like that. Who said that? That circus guy. But when he was asked about Hillary's record, that he probably will, if he was a nominee, he would probably be going up against head-to-head with Hillary Clinton. He did not answer the question. He just did some canned speech, which is bullshit. And it just shows you the inexperience of Marco Rubio. Whereas Ted Cruz, that's when Ted Cruz nailed her. That's when Ted Cruz nailed her. And just said, this is the worst foreign policy. Also, Trump said she's the worst Secretary of State we ever had. So Rubio's weak. He's a lightweight, and that you can see that. If you think about it, think about what I'm saying. He proved that he was a lightweight. He couldn't attack Hillary Clinton. He had a home run waiting for him. He could have easily just done that litany of, she was New York Senator. What did she accomplish? She was Secretary of State. What did she accomplish? Even back when she was the First Lady, what did she accomplish? She tried to do a healthcare thing, and it totally blew up because she did it in secret. There's been these cover-ups, conspiracies, and fraud. Man, that was a softball, Rubio. You screwed it up. Ben Carson, minimum wage. Oh, his first question was about the minimum wage. He's against mandatory minimum wage, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Totally rational, totally reasonable. He came across pretty good this debate. That all candidates should be vetted, but they should be fair. So he called out Hillary as a liar. He called her out straight up. Ben, a lot of respect, bro. Seriously, coming on strong. Okay. He's an honest man. He reiterated that people who know me know that I'm honest. And look, I have no reason to not believe that. What he wrote in the book makes sense when you understand what happened. Okay. He has this tax, proportional tax thing, basically, 10% or whatever it is, 10% or 15%, a flat tax for everybody to pay, and that's it. And he would destroy the caliphate. The main thing about ISIS is to destroy the caliphate. That would be his his plan. His close was about America coming back. We need to come back to our values. America to be great again has to come back to its core values. So, overall, he didn't trip up, but he didn't have really any. I don't see any knockout moments, except the Hillary's a lie thing. That was a strong moment for him. Again, when I see a candidate factually go after Hillary, because the mainstream media is totally ignoring her, giving her a pass, as they did Barack Hussein Obama when he was a candidate. So when I see people go after her in a strong way, in a truthful, factual way, you got to give them a thumbs up. So Ben did pretty good. Now, finally, the star of the show, Donald Trump. Okay, his knockout blow was, why does she keep interrupting? Against Carly, and that was just awesome, just so awesome. Trump was asked one of the first questions about the minimum wage, and he again said, he said that he also was opposed to a minimum wage of $15. Makes no sense. If we're going to be competitive, we have to be competitive, and people have to work hard and work themselves up. And it's hard, but that's the truth, right? Oh, just going back to Ben, one thing Ben was saying, look, he had jobs, his early jobs, which were low-paying jobs, but it gave him a lot of experience, and that experience gave him the motivation and the experience that he could parlay into later on in life becoming a doctor. So, and we all know that. Everybody knows that. One of the next questions was that the appellate court decision has recently just blocked Obama's blocking of deportation of about 5 million illegal immigrants. So he's glad that happened. It's, we mentioned it's kind of rare that we get these kind of wins, but we did. We're a country of laws. We need to deport these people. I like Ike. Remember, I like Ike. He brought up the fact that, look, he says Ike deported 1.5 million people. The actual number was about 2.5 million in total that deported or self-deported. The tax plan. Carson, Donald Trump's tax plan is 10% flat tax, and pretty good. He opposes the PTP, or the Pacific Trade Partnership. It's 5,600 pages. No one has read it. Again, it's just nonsense, man. It's just nonsense. He would prefer to do one-on-one trade deals. Look, it's real simple, and Donald we hold all the cards. Since the United States still has the largest economy, everybody wants to sell to the U.S. But on the other hand, we control all the cards. If we don't let you sell to the U.S., you're not going to make any money. Who are the rebels? Who are the rebels in Syria? We don't know who the rebels are in Syria. Who are we supporting? Right, that came up in the international thing about what would you do about these certain international things, conflicts. We don't know who the rebels are in Syria. It's true. And a lot of these so-called Free Syrian rebels went over to ISIS. So what's the conclusion? And my conclusion is a few of the candidates did well. Most, there's no change. I think that if Ron Paul and John Kasich don't get a bump in the polls, they need to drop out.